The Radio Memories Network is brought to you in part by Liberated Syndication, podcast publishing made easy, libsyn.com. That's libsyn.com.
Welcome, old-time radio lovers of the Boxcars 7-Eleven Old-Time Radio Pod. I am Bob Camardelli, your host, and for the next hour or so, your guide, as we travel back in time, back before TV was, to the golden age of radio.
The Texas School of the Air welcomes you to your story parade. Oh, play the pipe, oh, beat the drum. See over there, oh, here they come. With happy smiles and marching feet, the parade is coming down the street. Here comes the lion, and there's Andy, Winnie the Pooh, and Jack a Dandy, Red Riding Hood, and the Little Red Hen, Jack and Jill, and King Cole's men. Oh, play the pipe, oh, beat the drum. See over there, oh, here they come. With kings and queens in silks arrayed, your story parade. Boys and girls, you're listening to Your Story Parade. It's the transcribed radio program all for you. Yes, and it comes to you on your radio every week at this time to bring you Your Story Parade lady.
Hello, John, and hello there to everyone listening.
Story Parade lady, hello to you from all your friends. They're waiting now by their radio, waiting to hear your story for today.
Oh, and today we have a wonderful story, John. It's a story about a king by the name of Midas. King Midas and the touch of gold. The story begins on a faraway day in a kingdom by the sea. The kingdom belonged to a very rich king with the name of Midas. And oh, what a rich king he was. Why, do you know he had more gold than any other king in the whole world? And he had a little daughter, too. And he was very, very fond of her. Yes, he was fond of his little daughter, all right, but I'm afraid that King Midas was fonder of gold than of anything else. Why, one day his little daughter came running to him with her arms full of yellow flowers.
Yellow like gold?
Yes, because you know gold is yellow, too. And the yellow flowers made good King Midas think more than ever of yellow gold. He said,
"Yes, my little daughter, your flowers are pretty. See? They are yellow like gold. What a pity. What a pity they only look like gold."
"But, Father," the little girl said,
hush, my child. Yes, I wish that your flowers were really gold.
Oh, Father,
I wish that everything I touch, everything, would turn to gold when I touch it. I wish I had a touch of gold. A touch of gold. Yes, a touch of gold.
Good King Midas wished for a touch of gold. He wanted everything when he touched it to turn to yellow gold. Poor man. He didn't know that his wish would soon come true, and he didn't know the trouble it would cause. He whistled as he thought of the gold that he had, and at the thought of someday maybe having even more. And then, listen to hear what happened.
Gold. Gold! Well, I'll unlock the door to my counting house, and I'll go count my gold once more.
Good King Midas went off into his counting house. It was filled with bags of golden money, golden bars and golden vases and jars and statues. And there were iron bars over all the windows. He wanted to be sure that thieves couldn't break in. Nothing must happen to the good king's gold. Oh, but come, everyone listening. Come, and let's slip up close, and listen to him count his golden money.
Gold all around me. Why, I have more gold than anyone else in the world. But I haven't nearly enough. What I really need is a touch of gold.
How now, good King Midas? And what were your words of a touch of gold?
I heard a voice. A voice where there can't be anyone. The windows are barred and locked and... Oh! shadow has fallen across my golden coins. A shadow here across my table.
How now, good King Midas, be not afraid.
Who are you? I see you. What are you?
Only a stranger. A friendly stranger, O King, with a touch of magic in my words.
Would that I had the magic touch. A touch of gold in my fingertips.
You wish for the touch of gold?
I want it more than anything else in the world.
Are you sure it will make you happy?
Very sure.
Good King Midas, when the sunrise comes tomorrow, in your fingers you shall have the magic touch of gold.
Hardly slept that night. Oh, how excited he was with the hope that when the morning sun came, it would bring him a touch of gold. He did sleep at last. And then suddenly morning had come. The king sat up in his bed and stretched his arms.
Oh, morning, and I remember. He promised me a touch of gold, and so I touch. And I touch, and I touch, and I touch. My bed, my cover, my chair. But nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. I still do not have the touch of gold.
King Midas had forgotten. The stranger had promised him a touch of gold only when the sun began to shine. And now it finally did begin to shine, for the morning was late enough at last. And then, suddenly,
gold. The cover on my bed has turned to gold at my touch. Now my chair is gold all over. My shoes and my clothes, gold. I have the touch of gold.
King Midas jumped out of bed in a frenzy of joy. He ran about touching everything. He turned his table to a table of gold, and he turned the pages of his books to leaves of gold, and then he dressed himself in clothes of golden cloth, and then he went running out into the garden. Many roses were growing there, and he touched them one by one. Why, he even tried to catch a bird to touch it. And then he went in for breakfast with his little daughter. The king said,
"Good morning, my little daughter. And what a wonderful, wonderful morning it is. Because... My dear, my sweet little girl, there are tears in your beautiful eyes."
And the little daughter was crying indeed. She held out a golden rose to the king, her father, and said, "Look, father, all the roses that were so sweet have been changed into gold. They aren't soft anymore. They aren't gentle. And they aren't sweet to smell."
Well, now, I wonder how it ever happened.
The king was ashamed to say that he had caused the mischief, and so he said,
"Pooh, my dear, don't cry about it. Sit down and eat your bread and milk or anything else you want."
And the king poured himself a cup of coffee from a golden pot. He was very fond of coffee to drink, but when he lifted the cup to his lips...
How shall I ever drink a golden lump of coffee?
Well, he couldn't drink it, of course. And so next he reached for a piece of toast, golden brown with butter for a hungry king. But as soon as he touched it...
We're very sorry to hear this.
I can't eat toast that's really gold.
Then next he reached for a hard-boiled egg. He was going to hit it quick on the table to break it open before it turned to gold, too. But the noise of it rang on the table like this.
A golden egg from my touch of gold. This is a problem. If all my food shall turn to gold, well, surely shall starve.
But the trouble from the touch of gold had only just begun. The little daughter ran around the table to her father when...
No, not my little daughter. No, she cannot be a golden statue. She can't.
But she was. Her soft red lips were changed to hard and yellow gold, and even the blue of her eyes were gold now. And her hair was even more of a golden color than ever before.
What have I done? What have I done to my little daughter?
Poor King Midas could only wring his hands in despair. He wished, oh, how he wished that he might be the poorest man in the whole world, if only he could have the little girl safe and alive again. And then from the
Forget about
window,
Steve
a
Rennick's
shadow from the
story.
sun fell
Forget
across
your
the floor.
investigation.
The king looked up.
You?
There's £300.
You
in
again?
my bag for you.
Have you not caused enough
Yes, you do,
trouble?
Chester.
Yes, the stranger
And
stood
if I
there.
don't?
A stranger
There's
with the
trouble.
touch of magic in his words. And the
Now
stranger
about that
said,
£300.
Now,
Ladies,
now,
please,
friend
just
Midas.
one client at a
How
time,
is
huh?
the touch of gold?
I am miserable. I am
I'm very
ruined.
sorry.
Gold is not everything
But
that's
friend,
good. I have lost
effective
what
men
I
like
love
you.
most dearly.
Ah, so you have made a discovery.
Say the sweetest
Good
thing.
King Midas, which should you rather have? The golden touch or a glass of clear, cold water?
Oh, blessed water.
The golden touch or a crust of bread?
A crust of bread.
And I'm down
The
to
golden touch
Now, just hold
or your own little daughter?
Oh, my child, my child.
It's called breaking
One little
into
hair of her head is worth more to me than all the gold in the world.
You are wiser now than you were, King Midas.
Why, yes, but I am undone.
warned me about this.
I'm a miserable
I
man.
like tight skirts.
Oh, if my little daughter were only alive again.
Now,
There's also
now,
a couple
good
of big
King,
gendarmes.
if you wish to lose the touch of gold, plunge in the river at the bottom of the garden. Take a vase of the same water and sprinkle it on everything you wish to change back to what it was.
I remind you that the police think they've already gone.
Didn't the stranger
Don't
disappear?
push me.
And they're bound to
The
do.
king
Yeah.
repeated the words as though in
What
wonder
they've
if
been
they were really
searching for.
true.
He said,
Just something else to tie Janine Lee and his
if I
Rennick's
wish
murder.
to lose the touch of
I'm looking at
gold,
it from another angle.
I must plunge in
Looking
the
for
river
another
at the bottom of
suspect.
the
I am your
garden.
father.
Why?
Oh, what's this?
To do that, I need only jump through the
Well,
window
after
here
this,
and
no, well, half of it,
I'll
anyway.
do it.
Hasn't finished it.
Head over heels, clothes and
How
all,
many
down
buns
he
on
went
the
into the
side?
water. Oh, how he splashed about.
Says
His
I have to
golden
pay
clothes weren't gold
148.
anymore, and
149's here in the
poured
typewriter.
water from a pitcher on a golden
But
rose.
it's my
And there it
instruction.
was, lovely
But
and
it's not
alive
mine,
again.
It's different.
Oh, yes, the touch of gold was gone forever.
Wasn't Melissa's
This
either.
story, old King Midas came
Exactly
running
how
back
many
up into
women
the
are there
house
mixed
with a
up in this
pitcher of
case?
water, and he sprinkled it over
Well,
the
Rennick
golden
must have
statue
collected
of
them
his
together
little
and
daughter.
then collect
And it was.
stakes.
Now, look at this.
Well, she began to sputter
What's
and
the
to
matter with
sneeze.
Look at the line on
Father,
this
she exclaimed.
And look at the
You
typing on the rest
spilled
of the
water all
page.
over my dress.
The manuscript isn't being typed on
Explained
this
how
machine at
foolish
all.
he had been.
Surely, my
He
girl,
led
you've
her
earned
into
a
the garden
bonus.
and began
Now,
to
settle
sprinkle
the
the
last
water on her
week's
precious
salary.
roses.
Visitors. Now's the torch.
500 soon were nodding and
Someone's at the
blooming
window
as
coming in on the
sweetly
fire
as
escape.
ever. Real roses
They
now,
must have started
not
somehow.
gold ones. Soon only one
darn
trace of the
thing.
gold remained.
Keep down.
There was a soft shine of golden light in the soft curls of the little girl's hair.
To tell you the
Petrol they're
truth,
spraying around.
Yeah, I think it's time. And they're getting away, too.
for a little child, boy or girl,
What Peter?
dearer than all
The flames are all around the window.
Front door, come on. Torch.
Oh, I dropped it.
And this way, the front door's over here. Julie,
The daughter?
Here's the story of King Midas.
police have sealed off the apartment.
Oh, next week, John, it's the story of the gingerbread man.
You can be certain of one thing. This definitely wasn't the kind of Peter Clay was. Maybe that intruder knew we were there, maybe he didn't. Either way, it didn't make much difference. Steve Rennick's apartment had to be destroyed. And, brother, a petrol fire's a good way of destroying anything, including yours truly, plus private secretary. In just 2 minutes, that whole place was a raging inferno. The flames cut off our retreat to the window and fire escape. On top of that, Inspector Mellenby's boys had put a police seal on the front door. And life was just a little more than tedious just then. And I was in no mood for any jokes about barbecued private eyes.
I thought you said there were policemen guarding this place.
Well, there were. The idiots must be asleep. Okay, Julie, stand back. They issued me with a permit for this thing, so I guess it's time I used it. Hey, what's going on? Plenty. Or do they always have fires around here? You okay, Julie?
Yes, I think so.
What the devil's going on here? A fire, and I didn't start it. Call the fire brigade, John. Yes, sir. Right away.
I just knew you'd get into some sort of trouble, Mr. Troy.
Knew it or organized it, Miss Morgan?
There was a police seal on that door.
Look, I can explain, but nobody's going to believe me. However, I would like to know how Miss Morgan got into the act. She got onto the scene very quickly, didn't she? Too quickly.
For the time being, we'll all concentrate on trying to put out this fire until the fire brigade arrives. After that, you've got some questions to answer, Troy. You expect me to believe a cock and bull story like that, Troy?
Yes. It happens to be the truth.
This intruder of yours, was it male or female?
I couldn't tell. The room was in darkness.
Anyway, they didn't actually come into the room, Inspector. Just shoved up the window and poured petrol over the carpet.
Well, I don't think there was any intruder. I think this is all a figment of their very fertile imagination.
Now, don't you start. I'd still like to know what you were doing on the scene, Miss Morgan.
She was with me, Troy. She'd requested permission to get Rennick's half-finished manuscript.
Honey Buns and Homicide.
What's that?
Well, that was the title of it.
Just a minute.
Oh, something wrong?
I don't know. Just a minute. Yes, listen to this. This is a copy of Janine Lee's statement after we arrested her. Steve Rennick's last words were, "Too late, honey buns and homicide, baby. Honey buns and homicide."
Well, he must have been some egotist to mention the name of his book and his dying breath. Miss Morgan, what do you intend to do with the manuscript? Half a book isn't much use to anyone, is it?
We'll have one of our staff writers finish it.
Staff writers? Oh, you employ staff writers?
Well, there are a couple of people we can call on.
Either of them worked for Steve Rennick before?
Yes, one of the proofreaders.
A girl?
Troy, I don't
Just a minute, Inspector. There's a reason for this, believe me. One of them's a girl, eh, Miss Morgan?
Yes.
Name?
Well, Miss Morgan?
Helen Fremont. She used to do a lot of secretarial work for Steve, too.
Inspector, I suggest we go talk to the lady.
May I remind you that you're under arrest?
Okay, but I've got a hunch.
I don't give a hoot about your hunching.
Oh, come now, Inspector. You know about Pete and his hunches. There have been a couple of times in the past when they've helped you quite a lot.
That'll be enough from you.
Now, where do we find Helen Fremont, Miss Morgan?
Her brother owns a cellar club in Soho, the Carlisle. She spends a lot of time there.
I'm sorry, Mr. Troy. We don't open till 6.
I'm not a customer, Mr. Fremont. I just wanted to have a chat with your sister. Helen is here, isn't she?
Who wants to know?
Peter, Troy. Just tell her it's about Janine Lee and Steve Rennick. She'll understand.
Now, look.
Tell her.
I'll be watching you, Troy.
You do that.
You wanted to see me, Mr. Troy?
If you're Helen Fremont.
I am.
You know what I like about this case? It's just oozing with pulchritude. You know what pulchritude means? It means feminine glamour. Then, of course, you know what the word means. After all, you're a writer, aren't you?
Hardly.
Oh, but I hear different.
What do you want?
The truth. I found it's an elusive thing. Much more elusive than that perfume you're wearing.
What are you driving at, Mr. Troy?
Didn't anyone ever tell you about that perfume, Helen? It doesn't become you at all. It's too thick and heavy. And it's like a trademark.
What do you mean?
Rennick's apartment reeked of it the night he was killed. The manuscript of his half-finished novel reeks of it, too.
What are you talking about?
Honey Buns and Homicide. And I don't mean the title of his book, either.
Hurry?
Trouble?
I think there's going to be.
You'd better tell that fella to keep away from me. I don't like his face. I'm liable to want to change the shape of it. Why, you... If you see what I mean.
You want to get away with it?
No, Harry, we don't want any trouble.
Yeah, but...
What do you want with me, Troy?
Confession. This isn't a joke, Miss Fremont. You killed Steve Rennick.
Did I? Tell me about it.
First, I'll tell you this. Steve Rennick was no writer. In his whole life, he only wrote one book, the first one. It caught the public's eye, and it was a bestseller. But he couldn't maintain the standard. Well, his name was made, but he just didn't have the talent to write another novel.
Then who wrote the others?
You did. You were his ghostwriter. Oh, don't deny it. Melissa Morgan spilled the beans down at Scotland Yard.
All right, so I won't deny it. I wrote all Steve's books after that first one. But that doesn't mean I killed him.
Doesn't it? All right. Let's look at the facts for a minute. Now, it had to be someone who knew their way around Steve's apartment. Someone who knew where everything was kept. His gun, for instance. Just before you pulled that stunt with the petrol and matches, I was searching his apartment. Now, he kept his gun in his bureau drawer. And it was locked.
So?
So, apart from Steve, only one other person would have the key to that drawer. The girl who was not only his ghostwriter, but his part-time secretary. You.
That's not evidence.
Now, coming back to that fire. Now, the person who broke in through that window didn't even use a torch, and the room was pitch black. Therefore, the intruder knew her way around. Knew where every stick of furniture was. You. You're the one that fits. And then we come to the reason behind the fire.
Oh, yes, the fire. Tell me about that, Mr. Troy.
That manuscript beside Rennick's typewriter was written on another machine. Now, that's logical, isn't it?
Of course. As I wrote the books, it's obvious that the manuscripts would be written on my own machine.
Right. Page 149 was on the roller of his machine.
He always kept the last page in his typewriter so that any visitor would assume he was working on it.
Oh, that's so. But then again, on the sideboard next to the front door, we found the remains of some more of the manuscript. Yes, ma'am. Pages 150 to 163.
So?
You dropped those pages into him the day before yesterday. Just a few seconds before you pulled the trigger and killed him.
You're crazy.
He couldn't do the usual routine of slipping the last page into his machine. Because he was dead.
You can prove all this.
Oh, I don't have to. Now, the police are going to look after that part of it. But I haven't finished yet, either. We still have to find a motive, don't we?
And can you?
Well, I can try. How does this fit? There was something else in that apartment which had to be destroyed. The original manuscript of Steve Rennick's very first novel. The one he wrote himself. And why did that have to be destroyed? Because he wrote a dedication on the front page, didn't he? It read, "For Helen, my devoted wife." And that's you, isn't it?
No. You're making a mistake.
That's why you tolerated him stealing all your glory. You had to do it. His publishers wanted it that way, didn't they? And they still want it that way. Because by now, Steve Rennick's name sells his novels just as much as their plot lines. But you'd had enough of them, hadn't you?
You don't know what it was like. No one could know.
Janine Lee?
That was the one he was falling in love with. The others didn't count. They were nothing. But Janine Lee. Yes, I killed Steve, and I'd do it again.
Okay, Troy. So now you've got the story.
I sure have, Buster.
But you're not going to live to repeat any of what you just found out.
Troy, don't be a fool. Put away that
Out of the way, Helen. Steve got everything he deserved. And now this nosy
Drop
private...
that gun, Fremont.
Why, you...
Please, drop that gun.
Oh, I meant to tell you, Helen. The police came in here with me. They had to. You see, I'm still under arrest for unlawful entry.
Oh,
Careful, Troy.
It's okay, Inspector. You only got him in the shoulder. Did you get all that?
Yes, the sergeant got it all down in shorthand. All right, you'll have to come with us, Mrs. Rennick. You too, Fremont.
Mrs. Rennick. No one's called me that in a long time.
Just to tie up the ends for you, Helen was in Steve's apartment all the time. All the time Janine was there anyway. She heard the row, every word of it. And that was the final straw. She had already taken his gun, so the thought of killing him wasn't a new one. As soon as Janine went into the other room to powder her nose, Helen came on out of the closet, shot Rennick, threw the gun on the floor, and lit out, leaving the repentant redhead to take the rap. As for the fire, well, it was the only way she could get rid of that evidence without attracting suspicion to herself. And as for Melissa Morgan, well, she wanted the secret kept. Her company had too much at stake. She wasn't at all keen on having me delving around looking for the truth. And I was bound to find out about Helen Rennick being Steve's ghost. Well, what with ghosts and gals and honey buns and homicide, it was quite a case, wasn't it?